Typhoon Jebi, the strongest one in 25 years, has struck Japan and stranded thousands of passengers in the Kansai airport. Amongst them were some visitors from Taiwan. A few hours into the incident, a little-known Taiwanese news website began reporting on what it claimed was the failure of Taiwanese diplomats to rescue their citizens. Some bloggers also started posting about it online, praising the Chinese government for sending buses to help its citizens leave the country quickly. There were even rumors of the Taiwanese passengers passing themselves off as Chinese citizens in order to evacuate. The incident went viral. Images and videos purportedly taken at the airport started making the rounds. The news quickly spread throughout Taiwan's major media outlets, with journalists lashing out at the government, demanding to know how Chinese diplomats acted so swiftly and for what reason were the Taiwanese so incompetent. This became a national embarrassment almost instantaneously. The media backlash was so intense that a Taiwanese diplomat took his own life at the height of the outrage coverage and social media attacks. But at that moment, no one knew that the Chinese government orchestrated the entire incident. As investigations progressed, the answers became clear. Many of the people who posted about the incident prominently and enthusiastically were not real. Their photographs were composites. The Chinese Communist Party was linked to the obscure website that first promoted the story. Videos were forged. Astoundingly, the Japanese government confirmed that there were no Chinese buses, and thus no Taiwanese failure. However, journalists and news anchors quickly pounced on this for their own political agenda. It is clear that this was what Chinese propagandists wanted. Through the anonymity of social media, the proliferation of news sites with unknown origins, and above all, manipulating the hyper-partisan nature of Taiwanese politics to push one of the Chinese regime's favorite narratives, that the Chinese regime is powerful and Taiwanese democracy is weak. And in an emergency, Taiwanese want to be Chinese. The incident was notable not because it was novel or unexpected, but because it was yet another battle in a long-running campaign that arguably dates back to the establishment of modern Taiwan. In 1949, General Chiang Kai-shek relocated his Kuomintang Nationalist Party to the island and created the Republic of China there. Since then, the People's Republic of China has seen Taiwan as its ideological foe, a vexing reminder that not all Chinese want to be unified under the leadership of the Communist Party. Live military drills and missile launches are not new for Taiwan when dealing with pressure from the Chinese government. However, China has recently escalated what the Taiwanese call cognitive warfare, which is more than just propaganda and aims to establish an attitude of surrender in addition to military threats. This exact scenario played out in Eastern Europe with this type of coordinated military, economic, political, and informational offensive. Russia's plan prior to 2014 was to subjugate Ukraine by convincing its citizens that their government was too corrupt and incapable to survive. Now Beijing attempts to conquer Taiwan without launching a full-scale military campaign, and it's doing so by spreading false information about the country's democracy and its allies' intentions to abandon Taiwan, along with its claim that there is no such thing as a Taiwanese identity. Political and community leaders in Taiwan are aware of the lessons to be learned from Ukraine. Despite the fact that Taiwan and Ukraine have neither a common history nor a common culture, they have been bonded together via the idea of analogy. The parallels between reunification of Russia and Ukraine is eerily similar to that of China and Taiwan. Another parallel exists though. Many people in Europe and the United States bought into Russian propaganda on Ukraine because it was so compelling. Before February, many people believed that Ukrainians wouldn't retaliate because of Russia's portrayal of the country as split and with questionable loyalties. China's influence on Taiwan is both real and controversial, and the country's propaganda about the island is effective. Even if they oppose the Communist Party, many islanders still have family, business, and cultural links to the mainland and speak a common language. But just as we in the West missed the psychological and military preparations the Ukrainians were making, we have also missed the changes taking place in Taiwan. Although the Taiwanese are often criticized for being too apathetic and too inseparable from the People's Republic, this is not true for everyone. Many Taiwanese on the island don't speak Mandarin originally because they are natives living there before KMT arrived in 1949. For that matter, many Taiwanese feel no nostalgia for mainland China. As such, the vast majority of people today reject the previous one country, two systems idea for reunification, regardless of their political affiliation. The present reality of Hong Kongers facing the wake of the government's violent crackdown on pro-democracy protests is a stark reminder to Taiwan of a similar future. It seems that the Taiwanese are also now on the front lines of the battle between democracy and tyranny. Like everyone else, they have no choice but to resist. In order to counter China's psychological operations, economic pressure, and political manipulation, Taiwan has to devise strategies that other nations will inevitably need to adopt. One unexpected result of the mystery surrounding the missing buses at Kansai International Airport was a surge in online activist organizations. One of them, a non-profit research organization called Doublethink Lab, was founded by Dr. Puma Shen and Wu Min-Suan. It primarily monitors Chinese information operations and developing public awareness campaigns about them without being accused of being affiliated with any Taiwanese political party. The airport incident in 2018 had given them some experience of encountering and responding to information warfare. Well-prepared efforts to inject a story of Taiwanese weakness into the island's political scene, and as you would expect, their team currently operates out of the stereotypical hacker cave of a few gloomy, shabby rooms populated by extremely young, hyper-online people. Another group besides Doublethink Lab is also monitoring and evaluating misinformation tactics targeting Taiwan. The Information Operations Research Group, or IORG, has compiled a study on the Chinese media and influencers who attempted to distort dialogue on the island during the coronavirus pandemic. In 2021, China spread several rumors that the United States was obstructing Taiwan's access to vaccines, that Taiwan was falling behind in vaccine development, and that Taiwanese citizens were secretly obtaining their vaccinations in China. The stories now seem absurd, granted with the disastrous Chinese lockdowns of 2022, yet they gained traction in Taiwan at the time. Other than providing the government with intelligence on Chinese strategies, both groups are actively developing countermeasures. Videos made by Doublethink aim to educate viewers about the sources of the news they read, giving them the tools they need to verify the veracity of stories in the future. Seminars were held to assist Taiwanese middle and high school educators develop curricula on countering disinformation. Yu Chi-hao, one of IORG's co-directors, explained that the goal isn't just to teach students how to spot false narratives, but also how pro-Chinese media and social media construct narratives out of pieces of information in order to distort public opinion on their country's allies, its ability to remain independent, and its future ahead. Even the government is now involved in promoting and developing digital activism. Taiwan's first digital minister, Audrey Tang, who used to be a member of grassroots activism group, participated in the 2014 Sunflower Revolution, a youth movement organized around opposition to a trade deal with China. She firmly believes that Taiwan cannot play by the same rules as China. The Chinese Communist Party's centralized and thuggish techniques can only be resisted by something radically different: decentralized grassroots groups with open-source software with high transparency. Her ministry has a very minimal number of real personnel in conformity with that ideology. Instead, organizations like Doublethink and IORG are putting up tremendous effort against Chinese propaganda. By doing so, the public's trust in activists' organizations to monitor the complex world of Chinese misinformation is high, because they remember how activists helped construct Taiwan's modern democracy without being affiliated with any political group or agenda. Taiwanese who are unsure about what they have heard or read, for example, might turn to Kofax, an open-source website that allows anyone to submit their own fact-checks to a public debate. To keep visitors interested, the site employs video game techniques such as incentives and leveling up tasks. Billion Lee, one of the group's founders, has written that governmental influences are kept out of the service on purpose. When governments become too engaged in combating disinformation, it might appear like an infringement on free expression. Tang's administration has also experimented with the usage of police, an online discussion platform to facilitate better public dialogues. Taiwanese can only participate in national discussions. Individuals' online identities are tied to their participation in the national healthcare system. The notion is that if everyone speaks rationally and follows the rules of online discourse, conspiracy theories won't spread as rapidly. The perspective is sound. Better dialogues, better democracy, and greater openness will fight even the most cunning Chinese propaganda operation. However, not all of China's tactics aim to remain hidden. After Nancy Pelosi's visit, Beijing sent warships, aircraft, and missiles to fly over and around the island, with the intention of not only inciting instability, but also causing fear and worry. Civil defense is the next key for the resistance against the Chinese empire. Taiwanese firms are now actively training their workers in first aid techniques and emergency evacuation techniques. As Taiwan experiences frequent earthquakes and typhoons, together with a looming Chinese military invasion threat, it makes perfect sense to equip everyone with such skills. The start of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict was the catalyst that persuaded many of his countrymen that they needed to be ready for just such a scenario. As the average citizen is now fully aware of the importance of being prepared, that things might happen at any time without any fault of your own or provocation. Now, emergency response training education courses offered all over Taiwan are in overdrive and sell as though they were concert tickets. These courses are not only meant to educate on first aid application or emergency response only. An important secondary role is to foster a sense of belonging and connection, enabling individuals to know in advance that they can rely on their neighbors in times of need. The danger of a Chinese military invasion now becomes a common threat, unifying even those with extremely different political views. Naturally, a big bet on truth is being made by both the Taiwanese activists establishing civil defense and those working to dispel Chinese falsehoods. They bet that democracy and transparency would prevail over authoritarianism and secrecy, that unity will win over division, and that people will band together to form a society that will arrange itself in a way that will banish fear. They are carrying out this activity in a country with strong links to its main foe, including a shared language, shared history, relatives, and financial investments. As a result, there is a fair amount of distrust in this country regarding the trustworthiness of far-off friends. But their struggle with China's cognitive warfare goes beyond just online bot shadowboxing. The Russians partially invaded Ukraine because they believed erroneously that the Ukrainians wouldn't resist. If the Chinese thought the Taiwanese would retaliate and they might think twice. In this way, the military, which keeps its binoculars trained on the Taiwan Strait, and the work of Taiwan's larger community of social activists, including those who monitor Chinese misinformation online, defend judicial independence, advocate for the rights of Hong Kong residents and ethnic minorities, and promote government transparency. They are all attempting to convince China that an invasion would be risky and expensive through promoting democracy, lowering polarization, and boosting civic engagement. The future of Taiwan will depend on whether they are right.